Duke Nukem Advance is possibly the most forgotten game in the Duke Nukem series, as I pretty much never hear anyone talk about it, and it's a pretty overlooked title in the franchise, but all of that is about to change today. Developed by Taurus Games and published by Take-Two in 2002 on Nintendo's Game Boy Advance, a then console exclusive, one would think by looking at the cover that this is simply a really crappy version of the legendary Duke Nukem 3D, but that could not be farther from the truth, as this is a wholly original game with its own weapons, story, levels, and enemies. Now, Duke Nukem Advance is a little odd in that, in many ways, it plays more akin to Wolfenstein 3D or Super 3D Noah's Ark than it does Duke Nukem 3D, as you can't look up and down and power-ups don't exist. But this is likely just due to console restrictions. And also, unlike Duke of the Third Dimension, you cannot save whenever you want on Advance. Again, likely due to restrictions of GBA hardware, but this game really needed a save anytime feature, which is where Evercade Save Anywhere feature came in clutch on multiple occasions. While I tried to use it sparingly, it made DNA much more bearable, as the game's save system is that you save after every level, and that's it. If you die once, you're forced to restart the mission from the very beginning, and I think most of us can agree that this doesn't fit boomer shooters. Now that being said, I beat most levels without dying or without having to rely on Evercade saving methods, but in some of the later levels, this game would have been insanely hard to finish, as I'd say in the last 3 levels or so, the amount of ammo and medkits you receive slows down to a trickle, while the levels are packed with lots of enemies. And speaking of enemies, like I said earlier, this title introduced new opponents to the series, some of which are exclusive to this game if I'm not wrong. While Octobrains, Pig Cops, Assault Generals, and Enforcers returned from 3D, healing enemies were introduced, and they're little gray aliens that can shoot you with Energy Blast and revive aliens that you've killed, which could be annoying, and it made them a high priority target. Another enemy that was introduced in this game were small crab-like beings that are similar to the slimes of Duke 3D, but they can shoot you from afar. And finally, you had alien eggs, which kinda look like bowling pins, and while they have a pretty short range, they will shoot you when you're close, so I recommend trying to eliminate them from a distance. But what do you have to eliminate the alien bastards with? Well, Duke's pistol, his pump action, RPG, pipe bomb, freeze gun, and shrink ray all return, although the shotguns seem to get a massive range nerf, and pipe bombs were really tough to use at times, likely just again because of limited GBA hardware. They could just be a little wonky to use, and also, you can't pick up a badly thrown pipe bomb like you can on 3D, so if you throw one, even if you miss and want to try again, sorry, you'll still have to detonate it. Anyways, added to Duke's arsenal were the MP5 submachine gun, a 4-barrel shotgun, and a golden pistol, which I was never able to find. I only know it exists because I read about it in the manual. Oh, and you had Duke's Mighty Foot for a melee weapon. I'm not really sure if I had a favorite tool of combat in this game, but the normal shotgun and the MP5 would be my top 2 candidates. Now, unlike on 3D, you can't kick while holding a weapon. You have to manually equip the Mighty Foot to use it, which was a bit of a bummer, unless you froze an enemy. Then you just walk over to them, and Duke would automatically kick and shatter the alien. As for changing your weapon, this took some getting used to. You have to hold the select button and use the bumpers to alternate between guns, and you were vulnerable to being attacked during this process, as you can neither move or defend yourself. Again, this took a bit of getting used to. Another thing that took some getting used to was picking up weapons. Sometimes, when you picked up a weapon for its ammo, you'd automatically equip it. But again, this only sometimes occurred, which was a hair confusing, and what made this so frustrating largely comes down to the aforementioned weapon swapping, where you have to stand in place and use 2 buttons to cycle through your armory. Like, I might be in a heated close-range firefight and wanting to use the shotgun, and then I'd accidentally walk over an RPG and then have an explosive weapon in a point-blank range situation. I'd have to either find some way to use the RPG safely or retreat so that I could swap back to the pump action. This wasn't game ruining or anything, but it was a noteworthy quirk in my opinion. And while we're still on the topic of combat, I would like to note that Duke Nukem Advance has exploding fire extinguishers, something I did not expect, and I was glad that this was added, although I was disappointed that you couldn't use urinals like you can on 3D. Oh well. Changing topics, I would like to talk about controls outside of what I've already discussed. You use the bumpers to strafe from side to side, B to jump, and A to shoot. There's no action button, like to activate a switch or to call an elevator. You just walk close to something to interact with it. And you also auto-crouch when getting close to vents. As far as level design goes, most levels were pretty simple, although I found the map to be rather useless, and some areas could be a little tricky to navigate thanks to Game Boy graphics, but I was never lost for too long, with one exception. Now I'm not sure if this was due to a glitch, or if it was intentional, but in one of the later levels, I needed a red key card to unlock a door. Okay, cool, but it was locked behind a door of a previous location. Like, I spawned in on one side of the level, the side with the key card, and I unknowingly walked through a door that shut and locked behind me, making it impossible to grab the card. I tried everything, and I searched and I could not find another way into that area, and after about half an hour I just loaded up a previous save so that I could grab the key card. Thankfully, this was a one-time thing as far as I could tell, but again, I'm not sure if this was supposed to happen or not. Other than this, the only performance issue I noticed was some lag at times when a lot was going on, but it was nowhere near as bad as something like Medal of Honor Underground on GBA. Now I am a little bit surprised that the Evercade port had lag issues, but this could have just been the devs trying to stay as true to the original product as possible, which I guess I understand. Like, if somebody wanted to port 3DO Doom, but then fix the performance issues, there wouldn't be much of anything special about that version really, as its infamous crappy performance is one of the things that makes 3DO Doom what it is. Anyways, the soundtrack was okay, although there wasn't really any music playing during the levels themselves. There was limited voice acting, however, with Duke having the occasional one-liner, and I was pleasantly surprised that this title had any voice acting. The sound effects were okay also, and I think the last thing to really mention is the story. It's nothing too special. Duke saves the world from aliens, and then gets some time with the hot girl in the end. That's the story in a nutshell, and the story is told through 2 cutscenes and some dialogue lines shown on screen. Oh, I forgot to mention that this title has some pretty impressive boss fights that I enjoyed. And I reckon that sums up Duke Nukem Advance. I honestly don't have much to compare it to, as the only other Game Boy Advance FPS I've ever played was the horrible MOH Underground, which is just a mess of a mess. But DNA was pretty good if you ask me, and it's a rather impressive title in my opinion, and it earns a 9 out of 10 by my grade scale. I wouldn't suggest this as your first Duke game, but it's a rather enjoyable 5-hour spin-off title that's well worth checking out. As far as similar games I could recommend, I'm going to go with the aforementioned Super 3D Noah's Ark. It's a really fun boomer shooter running on the Wolfenstein 3D engine that was somewhat recently ported to Steam and GOG. Link to my review of that video in the end cards if you wish to check it out. As for our Bible verse of the day, I read Hebrews 11:1 NIV. Now faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see. Alrighty, I guess that wraps up my video for now. Thanks for watching and for putting up with my horrible narrations. For anybody who is new here, I mostly review and discuss Xbox 360 games, but I'm down to cover other consoles as well, like today, and this is my first Evercade game review ever, so woohoo! Like always, none of my content is ever made by AI, and I never consent to my voice and likeness being modified, altered, and copied by AI in any way, form, and shape. Keep YouTube human. Jesus is king, and he loves you all. Thanks again for watching. Peace. As far as level design goes,